Headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Woke teachers. So you're running for the presidency of Durham Student Union. Let's just get into that. I mean, it's a bit unfair to the other candidates that you're getting time to talk about your policy agenda on national radio, but okay, fair enough. To be fair, most students are out in the pub at this time of night anyway, so that's fine. But do you think it is a problem at university, and do you feel that it's undermining universities in the same way that teaching is being undermined?
Yeah, I think it's a cross-academic thing, whether it comes from schools, sixth forms or universities. Obviously, I've only been at university for about a term. I wanted to run because we've had loads of problems at Durham. I unearthed the Durham sex worker scandal where they were training people to be sex workers. Within about 3 days of me being at Durham, I was already lectured on white privilege and unconscious bias. And they also just recently had a massive protest and were trying to get a professor sacked because of a speech that Rod Liddle made. So I was just kind of tired of it, so I thought I'll run for Durham Union president and hopefully on a campaign for free speech and common sense would be lovely.
I remember once I was hanging around in Oxford, I forget why, and we went to this sit-in of the accommodation block, and you know the way these people talk, they're going, we're having an occupation against the way the university is treating us, and then they said, we will not let any of the staff of the university into this building unless they need to go to the toilet. I thought, oh, good God, right. I mean, that's radical, isn't it? Anyway, Ali, look, in terms of teachers, can we not just say to ourselves that actually the British Empire is controversial? Elements of slavery were horrendous. Well, all elements of it were horrendous, but elements that we forget are particularly egregious. Isn't it only right that there's a more balanced view? And perhaps teachers in the past were just defending Britain where Britain was not defendable.
Well, look, Andre, I do think it's important for children to be taught how to think, not what to think. And that means exposing them to different ideas. Now, look, I'm no fan of critical race theory. I think the whole concept of white privilege is completely bizarre, quite frankly. Yes, there is discrimination in certain quarters that needs to still be rooted out, but we've come a long, long way in the last 30 or 40 years. So to pretend that we've made no progress on these issues, I think, is to completely miss the point and actually to get a lot of people's backs up. We've moved a long way in this country, and we do not have the same issues in this country as they have in the US. We've got our own issues to deal with. So I think this whole-scale importation of a Black Lives Matter movement and other things, yes, there are certain elements that have to be dealt with here, but we've got our own story and our own issues that have to be dealt with in our own way. So I do think it's important to have a balanced reading of history. I do think it's important for kids to be exposed to different views. But what I really feel uncomfortable about is an agenda that certain parts of the left-wing educational establishment have to impart certain perspectives as fact and as the only ethically or moral perspective that is acceptable. I think that's wrong. And you see this happening on university campuses. I mean, Sophie's mentioned this. It's a serious issue. I mean, Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt wrote a book called The Coddling of the American Mind that looked into this issue, particularly in American university campuses, of the closing down of debate and how that whole philosophy has migrated to our own campuses and what it's doing to our campus life, because a lot of those people, like Sophie, are going to go on to great careers in the media, in banking, in law, in the professions, in education. They're going to be influential. If they've never been exposed to ideas they don't like, and this whole issue of safetyism, that you're going to inflict psychological harm on people if they hear something that they disagree with, is frankly, in my view, bizarre. What we should be teaching people is to respectfully debate robustly and to form resilience so that they can handle argument. I mean, can you imagine, we've just been talking about Ukraine and Russia, Andre, what if we had troops stationed on the border? Well, luckily we're an island, right? But let's say in the English Channel, what are we going to do? I mean, we're going to capitulate because everyone can't win a Mars bar at school or something. I mean, let's get real. We've got to build a backbone here, and we've got to expose kids in schools to varying ideas and make them robust and argue their points so that they can learn from other people with different points of view.
And that's the concern, really, Sophie, isn't it? The fact that, first of all, children will be closed-minded. But secondly, if you're never interested in excellence, then actually, you know, it's a complete waste of time. I mean, what I would hope, the reason that you go to school and do lots of topics and different sports and whatever, is to find the thing that you're good at. Because in real life, you only need to be good at one thing. I mean, I'm not good at anything, but I mean, I'm a bad example. But you only have to be good at one thing normally in order to succeed in life. And yet, you know, the idea that everyone's a winner, you know, let's give an award for somebody who came last. I mean, I remember speaking to one of my nieces. She told me there was a school in Warrington that said that what you should do on sports day is if you're winning the race, right before the finish line, you should stop to give somebody else a chance at winning. I mean, what a load of absolute bunkum.
Yeah, my mum used to go absolutely mental when I was in school, because when we had sports days, you just weren't allowed to win. No child was ever allowed to win. No child was ever allowed to lose. But there's no such thing as everybody's a winner when you go into the outside world. So what we're doing is we're delaying this sense of reality so that when people do eventually leave the education system, they're hit in the face like a truck with what the world is actually really like. And that is why a lot of these people that do all of this woke nonsense tend to just cuddle themselves up in academia, and they never, ever leave because they've been mollycoddled and they can't actually face the real world. And we need to really get connected to what education actually means. And what education actually means is just that. Not indoctrination, not this complete utter woke nonsense that is shoved down children's throats, not this, you know, my opinion is right and this is how you should grow up to want to change the world. It's about being good. Education used to be about learning about maths, science and all of that nonsense, you know, Shakespeare. But now it's about race, climate change and how you can change your gender.
Yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
And it's about, I believe, smashing the system. At the fall of the Soviet Union, it became very, very clear that socialist democracy, socialist freedom, socialist economics had been thoroughly discredited. The only way now to bring in all of this in is for society to self-abort. Anyway, we're going to go to a break in a minute, but I just want to say, I want to speak on behalf of the nation here. Dosh Diddle says, give Andre Walker his own show on Talk Radio. He's brilliant. And that is the nation talking, by the way. So we just make sure we always read them out.
Good talk.
Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk Radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.